Hi, welcome back to this video series, Anxious Avoidant Bridging the Gap. This episode is number 4, and in today's episode we're going to discuss about creating a safe space for your relationship if you have an anxious avoidant relationship. If you want to watch the other videos, don't forget to subscribe and also have a look in the description. I put together a designated worksheet for this video series to help you follow the content and make progress and take action. I'll explain everything about the safe space after the jingle. So this element of safety is hardwired in our system, in our nervous system actually. And the problem is the way we perceive threats, whether we're avoidant or anxious, is different. Closeness will spike anxious avoidant stress. Silence will spike anxious panic. Okay? And so for the same situation, the way we react will potentially trigger our partner. And so when you break up with someone who has a different attachment style than yours, it's usually not about the feelings. It's usually not about the lack of chemistry. It's usually about a clash of attachment, which means it's the way we perceive threat or safety in the relationship. As an avoidant partner, I would withdraw. I will break up with a partner if I feel I can't be safe, which means, from my point of view, having my own independence, having my space, not being always on the spot about discussing deep emotional things or confronting my partner every day. Okay, just to give you an example. This element of safety is something you can co-create. So that's the work that I do with my clients. Yes, I do work with one-on-one with my clients, but the point is to help you, and that's what we're doing here, help you to also manage your partner. And rather than being you versus me, is like, let's build that environment together. Maybe it starts with you, fair enough, but the point is to co-create that new relationship. And so, in a way, what we are doing today is creating new habits for this relationship. When you start being more intentional about what you do, more strategic about how you manage a relationship, it becomes easier, right? It's not so much about the effort you have to put, the work on the relationship. It becomes easier because you're on the same page. You know how your partner will react. You know your limitations and your trigger points, and you can evolve and be on the same page. Not constantly, but most of the time. So we'll discuss in a second how to build this nervous system safe space. So what you have to understand is you can be in love with someone, but your definition of love might differ in terms of the signals or how we were taught love at a young age, how we develop that definition of attachment. So if you have an anxious attachment style, it's really about the reassurance. My way to feel love is I need to be reassured. I need consistency. I need contact. For avoidant is on my own terms. I need space. I don't like pressure. The thing is, in any relationship, you want connection, but the way you want connection is different. The point is to create that safe space where you meet in the middle. Now, obviously, the $1 million question is this space something realistic that you can get with your partner? Maybe that's not possible because you're facing a partner who's not willing to do the work. In theory, anxious avoidant will never work out because they want different things. Now, attachment is something we can change, and also it's a spectrum. The point is to navigate in the middle where we're neither extremely avoidant or extremely anxious. And we all have the capacity to move along this spectrum and developing this secure attachment style. The point is to differentiate between your need, between the perceived threat, and understanding your partner's behavior. Whenever you're dating an avoidant who's pushing away, that doesn't mean necessarily he's rejecting you or she's rejecting you. Maybe there's an unmet need, and you need to be aware of this need. So the point is first to understand how they function, understand the signal, and adapt your communication and your reaction. That's why it's important to be very transparent. I call that pragmatic empathy in my book. It's about the ability to understand your partner's world, not to put yourself in their shoes, but to look at life wearing their lens. Okay, so it's not so much about their point of view, but their point of view using their internal working model, using their software. So you can use a traffic light system to connect with your body and see how you feel. There are three major colors. The green one, you're calm, safe, connected. This is the secure one. Okay? Your objective is to, whenever you are in a relationship, whenever you communicate with your partner, you need to feel that you're in a green state. Second one is red, the fight or flight. Usually when you're anxious, usually when you're triggered, usually when you feel disconnected, when you feel that the person is about to leave you, when we call that hyperactivation of the attachment system. The other one is blue. Some people mix up blue and green, not because they are colorblind, but because from the outside, it seems to be the same. And that's why a lot of people misunderstand avoidant partners, because they feel they don't care, they don't have any emotions. No, they are shutting down. They have this ability to numb themselves. And for many years, I thought being able to put the emotions on the side was a strength. Because if you put the emotions on the side, you're never depressed, right? If I feel depressed, I start to feel awesome and I'll be better, right? Barney Stinson, How I Met Your Mother, if you know the reference. And so the point is, no, when you're blue, you're actually missing the point, you're missing a signal. And so whenever you're about to discuss by text, whether you're trying to reconcile with an ex, name your state before you speak. You will never be able to connect with your partner if you're dysregulated. And that's why sometimes when I work with my clients who have an anxious attachment style, we work first at developing the tools to be emotionally regulated in order for you to be in the green zone most of the time and shift from the red to green. Because sometimes people after a breakup, they're in the red zone 99% of the time. The point is to first manage to be in the green zone most of the time, more than 50% of the time. And when you're in that state, then you can contact your ex. Then you can communicate with your partner about an argument or things that you don't agree with. This element of co-regulation comes before the communication. So you need to be regulated in order to have the right communication. You can read all the books about nonviolent communication, effective communication, etc. If you're not, if you can't regulate your emotions, you won't have the right connection. And I think if you look at and there's another video on this series about how to handle conflicts. Conflict is usually not about the topic of the conflict. People usually don't have a hard time dealing with conflicts because of the emotional element of conflict. So remember this traffic light whenever you're about to communicate, just to see where you are mentally, physically, in your body, around your emotions, before communicating with your partner. The problem with avoidance is that we can be triggered very easily. We need to talk, even to this day, is very triggering for me. The thing is, as soon as I hear those words, I feel back when I was, because now I know where it's coming from, when I was 7 or 8, and my dad would confront me about homework or things I haven't done at school. And that will be, okay, I need to shut down, I need to escape, I need to go in my bedroom because I don't want to experience this again, right? And in the worksheet, I would put the Mikulinser danger zone, where you have the threshold. Anxious people talk to feel close. Avoidant avoid to feel safe. And so that's why you have to be aware of the timing. You have to be aware of the situation. Maybe it's just not the right time to discuss right now. Maybe it's not just the right situation. And also watch out for your tone. If you want to create a safe space with your partner, it's very, very important to listen to how you talk. what I find fascinating in relationship, and I still don't have the answer, let me know in the comment section if you have an answer to that, is why we feel so comfortable with the person who's potentially the most important person in our life, the person we love the most, but we allow ourselves to speak to this person in a way that is not a way you would speak to anyone. When you get mad, when you get angry, you say things, you have a tone that you would never use with your worst customer, with someone, I don't know, random at work or your family. But actually your family depends, but with your partner, with someone who's very close to you, you allow yourself to do that. So it's important to gain that awareness, to, again, be aware of this traffic light, pre-frame, ask yourself whether it's the right tone, the right conversation, the right topic, the right timing. That will deliver that element of safety. If an avoidant feels safe, he or she will open up. I can guarantee that. They have the ability. It's very hard for them. It takes a bit of time and effort, but they can. And actually, what is very surprising when you work with avoidant people on therapy sessions, obviously they will open up with a stranger. But when it comes to their partner, they feel they're going to be judged. They feel they're going to be the little kid, like I did, being questioned about things I don't want to answer. But when they talk to their therapist, they are like an open book. Most of the time. Sometimes they are. Usually they're not, because when they come and see a therapist, they know there's something they want to address. And it's very easy for them to discuss on things. The other element that provides this element of safety is predictability. And this is really true for anxious attachment style. It's when you feel, I can predict, I don't have to work on eggshells, that anxious partner feels safe and connected. Avoidant, it's more about like, I know this space is pressure-free. I know you're not gonna ask me things I don't want to do, I don't feel comfortable with. And that's why it's important to balance also some time outside of the relationship. A healthy relationship is not codependency, it's interdependency. I have my own life, I have my friends, we also have friends, we also have our relationship. And everything coexists. And I don't overly depend on you, you don't overly depend on me, there are other things. Yes, you're probably the most important person in my life, but there are other sort of support system, if we talk about support, for example. The point, and it's the same, and it's something that was developed more with family system, is this element of circle of connection. You explore, you have your own time, your own hobbies, your own things, but you also get that reassurance. Those two elements are important if you want to nurture the right form of intimacy with your partner. The element, and this is very important, especially if you have an anxious attachment style. Predictability doesn't mean boring. And a lot of people who have an anxious attachment style, they mix up inconsistency with passion. They want the highs of the roller coaster, and they forget that actually a secure relationship is predictable. I know that when I feel this way, my partner will help me, will provide this. I'm not walking on eggshell, not knowing exactly what my partner wants, how he will react in a certain way, etc. And that's why a relationship is something that needs to be developed, because you get to know your partner and sort of explore together. And so even if you're married for 30 years, there are still new things to explore because there are new experiences, new things that you have to confront yourself with. That's why, so this element of predictability, and that's also why I'm a big advocate of structuring your relationship the same way you would structure a business. Because when you have the rules of the games, when you have the right structure, that creates an element of safety, right? You're not going to improvise. When this happens, then we write this. When we plan holidays, I have a tendency to plan my holiday this way. You have a tendency to plan holiday this way. Okay, we know that. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right. But let's figure out a way that functions. Rather than every time arguing because we have different ways of planning holidays. You replace holidays with money, kids, whatever, that's exactly the same. It's about, okay, let's figure out a way to work and have a structure in place, a framework. Once we have the framework, we can navigate things properly. And I feel safe as an avoidant to discuss things, to disagree with you, and I feel safe as an anxious person that you listen to me, that you understand what I want, and that you can meet my needs. So how can you repair and build that reassurance? In other words, how you can build this element of trust? Step number one, you acknowledge hurt without defense. Without defense. The point is not to be right. The point is to acknowledge that what you've said was hurtful or what you did was hurtful. Then the second element, and that's why it's important to have a strong understanding of their attachment style, is to show a lot of empathy around their nervous system. When someone reacts, fight or flight, it's not about you. It's about their nervous system. Okay? When an avoidant asks for space, pushes you back, it's not necessarily rejection, right? When an anxious partner yells at you, I'm stating like extreme examples, it's not necessarily about you. It's about the story they're telling themselves about the relationship. Step number 3, it's about how you would try again. Detach yourself from the emotion, explain your inner world. I call that pragmatic empathy. Let me show you how I react, what's my operating system, so you understand my world. And therefore, when this happens again, I know exactly what would happen. It's all about intention. It's not a perfect process, and the point is like you will be able to repair if you have the right intention. Sometimes people are very good at apologizing, but there's no follow through. So if you're in that case, it's really making sure actually it's not only words, but there's actions after that. And sometimes you can't solve everything on the same day, but go back to it 1 day after, 1 week after. Oh, by the way, about what happened the other day. I'm sorry, I reacted this way. And this is why I reacted this way. And actually, which makes me think that I'll put some cases in the in the worksheets. I haven't finalized the worksheet yet, so I'm going to put some case studies and examples in the worksheet about that. That safety is something you can build, something you can reinforce. It's not something it's not something that you will get necessarily because you love each other, unfortunately. And it's also something that will grow over time. And it's your responsibility to make it grow, to nurture this relationship, and also your responsibility to ensure that your partner is also putting the effort. I'll see you next time for episode 5 of this series. Take care.